Your light has been diminished. This is a message that I received through meditation recently, and something that has moved me to share with everyone else, particularly because throughout my life I have known many people, mostly men, who, when their lights have been diminished enough, they take the steps to extinguish them. And as such, it's an important topic to discuss. I am the Desert Viking, and today we're going to get into a hard topic. A lot of what we're going to talk about here today is going to be ad hoc, so I don't have any scripts or anything prepared. It's just me talking. So, if you've been on this channel for any great length of time, you know that why it started had nothing to do with esotericism or Freemasonry. It was more of a place for me to reflect on thoughts, on a great betrayal that I had been through, which had certainly diminished my light. And over the course of the weeks and months to follow that, I would be inspired to turn it into a platform where I could delve into some of the things that always interested me and put them in a way that hopefully others would resound with. That's the whole point of this channel, so it moved from that. However, as Templars, as Freemasons, as whatever, part of what we have to do is examine our lives and understand the things that are going around us. And so the light has been diminished. When I entered into the solstice, one of the things that a few of us began was something called the 40 invocations. And during the 40 invocations, one of the questions that has been on my mind is, what is my role? See, as we get older, our roles start to diminish in this world. The world we live in, which is no surprise to anyone, is you are basically a battery to produce wealth for other people. And when that use is done, or you don't have the ability to generate as much wealth anymore, like a battery in a toy, you're taken out and discarded. And for a lot of people, this is reality. This is the real world. You get older, and you have no use in the world, or it seems like you have no use in the world. When you go through any type of trauma, and that trauma can be PTSD, usually a form of PTSD through war, through being in a car accident, through betrayal trauma. There's any number of things cause PTSD. If you grew up in an abusive home, for example, as a child, you're traumatized. You may shake it off and say, "No, I'm fine." You just have to, that's the world we live in. I have to be tough and bottle up all those feelings. Well, regardless of whether you think you're tough and you've bottled up those feelings and you've dealt with it and you're fine and you've moved on, trauma physically rewires the nervous system. It actually changes your neurology. Now, just to give you some info on my background, I am a computer science guy with a background in psychology. So I have studied psychology and sociology for going on almost 30 years now. That doesn't make me an expert. I'm not a doctor, PhD, whatever, but I've gone through trials, I've gone through therapists, I have gone through my own studies. It is something I have done regularly for almost 30 years, studied psychology, and I have an educational background in it as well. So it's not, I don't have a PhD, but I'm not like totally just a hobbyist. So trauma rewires the nervous system once. Now, when you go through trauma once, and everyone does, I believe that's part of the world. It's going to change who you are. It's going to alter your vibrational rate. And other people pick up on that. Now, I believe, in my opinion, it is possible to recover from a singular trauma. It takes a lot of work. Then there are those who will suffer multiple traumas. It could be anything. Um, again, we live in a world where we are fueled to traumatize each other because we live in a world where I believe it has been created where there are those around us who that is their role. Their role is to traumatize people, to feed off of their light. So every time you go through a traumatizing event, it physically injures you. It physically alters your nervous system. And what I believe it does is everyone has a vibrational frequency. Everyone is operating at a certain frequency. And most people operate fairly low. They're at a fairly low frequency. And as you move on and advance and you learn things and you've lived multiple lives and you start to understand, we're all on a return trip to the divine, your frequency rate raises. And the higher your frequency rate raises, the more it repels those of a lower frequency. Human nature being what it is, we are the proverbial crabs in a bucket. If one of the crabs learns how to escape the bucket, the other crabs grab it and drag it back down. That's what we are. And I believe that's by design. Because it is, and I know a lot of this is the woo-woo. So vibrational frequencies is not part of psychology. The physically altering of your neurology is part of psychology, and I would say that alters the pheromones and the other chemicals you produce, which repel people. But in the woo-woo sense, it's also your vibrations change, and the higher you vibrate, the less people are vibrating at that level, which means most people are repelled by you. Now, the economy being what it is, and I don't mean money, the economy is supply and demand. So this affects men and women differently. Women are on the demand side of the social economy, which means things are more forgiving for women because they are in demand. So your vibrational rate can rise higher and you're still going to be highly sought after. And I know many different women in the woo-woo who can attest to that. For men, most men by nature are invisible. And that's most animals in the animal kingdom. The males are you have a role, but that role is not a sexy role. It keeps things going around you. It's to help the tribe or the herd. And that's what most human males, that's our role. We have, through social structuring and conditioning, have created a world where we defied nature's law, and which has resulted in the human race going berserk today. Partially, anyway. I'm not going to get into all that stuff because that's not what we're talking about. But the point being that the higher you vibrate, especially as a male, you are not sought after unless there's a certain type of guy that is highly sought after. It's a very rare type of man. Most of us are going to be invisible. And that being invisible is both a strength and also it can be highly damaging. Now, I did a little AI video. It fed it my profile picture and said, generate this image specifically, and it took me a few prompts to get this one right. But this is my social media avatar currently. It's been for a while. Now, if we notice this image, there's a beam of light coming down, and there's 3 arrows sticking out of his back. So I'm not going to get into detail on my own trauma. I'll just say that I've been through my share. And the 3 arrows represent what for me are the 3 major evils or 3 major traumas in my life that have altered me irrevocably. Any one of those 3 for a lot of people would have ended them. And I know that because I know people who've gone through some of those 3 and they didn't make it very far before turning to alcohol, drugs, vices to help medicate them. You can medicate trauma. You can make trauma appear to go away by pretending it's not there. A lot of people do that. A lot of people will transfer that trauma to others. They get hurt, so they hurt others. And I, unfortunately, am guilty of that as well through my life. I have done things I'm not proud of. I couldn't even tell you why. I don't think I meant it. I didn't mean anything maliciously at the time, but looking back on it, you can go, oh, I understand why I did those things. Each one of those barbs physically altered me to a point where there is no going back. And I know that I'm not the only one that this is a thing for. But I'm using myself as the illustration for you should you be in a similar situation. Now, there's a lot more than 3 things that have happened to me that have made me who I am. And each one of those affected my light. Each one of those diminished my light by design. They're not the same. If you follow the channel, you know that the last of those 3, you know what that is. That is a betrayal trauma by someone that I love very deeply, who reciprocated that to me and then basically said, psych, just kidding. The other 2 are a little bit different. And there are other things that have affected me throughout life. I don't have, I'm not going to get into it all. I've gone through, we'll just say I've gone through my own therapy, and I had a therapist tell me that they can't help me because they didn't know how to deal with all of this. So I realize, I'm going on 50 years old, like hiding this and pretending it's not a thing from people. There's no point in that, because you can tell when you're near someone who has been affected by a singular trauma. You can tell because they ring like a bell. We all ring like a bell. That's what vibrations are, a sound. We ring like a bell. And the more of these altering situations, these neurologically altering situations you've gone through, the stranger, the more warped that vibration becomes. And it is repelling to most people. When women or men talk about this type of thing, it repels everybody around them. Women get the pass because they're still highly sought after. Men don't care if a woman's been through a bunch of trauma. Like, it doesn't diminish his desire for her. He doesn't want to usually hear her talk about it a lot of times. Just like women don't want to hear men talk about it a lot of times, unless it's their job. But that's the difference in the economy, in the supply and demand side. And so your experience may be different, because depending on which side of the fence you sit on, you will have the world respond in a different way. A guy, and most of my audience here is male, so I'm just going to speak from the male side of you. And of course, you can disagree and you can present other axioms, and I love to have the conversation. I'm sure not every situation is the same. I say that all the time, but I'm going to say in general, in my almost 30 years of sociology studies, that is what I've observed. In general, the majority of what I've seen and read in papers and whatnot. So what this has done, when I asked in my meditation, what is my role It's because as I've gotten older, my role has diminished. I've always had a role. I have made millions of dollars for other people based off of my skills. And I was a battery. I have provided for children, my children. All that is done, and as I'm being sunset, as you get into your 50s, you become sunset. Um, there's going to become a little lesser and lesser use for people like me, especially with AI, where they want AI to go. And so I asked, what is my role? What can I do? Am I going to be one of those homeless guys that they interview on the streets, and you learn that I had a successful career and then it all went away and I live on the streets, and then it's followed by a string of mocking comments on social media that is gross. It's disgusting, but that's the world we live in. And the answer came back in a dream, as they do. Your light has been diminished. So I was like, well, what does that mean? How is that an answer to my question? So we're going to go back into the woo-woo stuff again, because I know this is a heavy topic. And why I talk about these things is because I've known, I think, going on 20 people now. 2 of them were women, 18 were men, who extinguished their light. And these people had a lot of people that cared for them. And so if I can do anything to help someone else who's going through something similar to not extinguish their light, that's why I'm doing this at my own expense, because talking about this stuff further repels people. So there's a price to pay for it. There is no greater enemy than the man in the mirror, yourself. That's what this image represents here. This is me looking in the mirror and seeing the dark side stare back. Your light has been diminished. We are all, I believe, shards of the divine. We were all created by one almighty God. Whether you believe it or not, that's fine. This isn't a religious thing. I don't follow a religion. I don't follow a way to accept that a creator created us and that there's a lot more to the world than we see. And we see science starting to catch up with that, at least on the acceptance of multiple realms now. So, as we are all shards of the divine, we are descending into matter and rising back up. We are here to experience things, to learn things. I believe we were created to be tested. We were created specifically to be tested. And the higher up you are, the more severe the tests become. There's an axiom that I've always followed, and that is simply, you will not be given more than you can handle. Which means if you are given a lot to handle, you can handle it. You are capable of handling it. And as dark as things may seem, you have to keep that in mind. And these tests are designed to diminish your light. Those 3 arrows in my back, along with the countless other barbs and nicks and flames and everything else that I've in my life have gone through, were purposely crafted to diminish the light. Every human is a brother and sister, and every person has a role. We're all in different stages of our journey. And those who are newer are more attracted to the materialism. They're more attracted to the status seeking. They're more attracted to the pleasure hunting. And I believe it is their role to diminish your light by consuming it for themselves, because they don't know another way. It's like a self-fulfilling puzzle or a self-fulfilling challenge. You have to have agents in the matrix, whose job it is to test you and consume your light. And most people don't even realize that. They just, to them, it's just how life is. Life is supposed to be evil and nasty, so they make it as evil and nasty as they can for others. Show me that I'm wrong. If you've lived in the world for a couple years, you already know this. The longer you live, the more you see. The world is run by greedy piggies. And they're only interested in power. And the rest of us are their batteries. Now, there's lessons to be learned in that. That is intentional. That is the design of the crucible. To diminish your light. So you have to face that man in the mirror. And you have to unify with that man in the mirror. You have to embrace that man in the mirror. That evil looking thing staring back at you. You have to embrace that. He's a part of you. You cannot stuff him in a closet and pretend he doesn't exist. You cannot mock him or make fun of him or whatever. You can't diminish him. The more you diminish the man in the mirror, the more powerful he becomes. The more you run from the man in the mirror, the more that he becomes. You have to face the man in the mirror, and you have to unify with him. So all of the barbs and tribulations that we go through are designed to keep us on our knees, to test us. Can you keep moving forward? How much more can you possibly take and keep moving forward? And the more you take, the more that neurology becomes changed. The more other people can sense that neurology be changed, and they move away from you. They don't want to be around that. They don't want that to happen to them. That's kind of like a herd instinct, I think, in my opinion. That one, I can't prove that one, but people, when others go through trauma, are avoided because I think other people, they fear that. They fear that trauma, and they don't want the same thing happening to them. And so part of the trauma is not only going through the whatever it is that put that big giant bolt through your chest, but it's having to do it alone and watching everyone back away. People you trusted and cared for no longer want to talk to you anymore. Sitting in your house for days on end without any human contact, except maybe at work. You go to work and talk to people, but that's not the same thing, right? All of those things are tests. Being invisible is a test. Walking through life and no one even regarding your presence or knowing you're there is a test. It's all a test for you to pass or fail. It's an opportunity. So your light has been diminished, is what I was told. What does that mean? I'll go back to the GIF. My light has been diminished is this image right here. And what is that representation that I want of me doing? He's got his feet planted. He's on his knees because he's been knocked there. He's picking himself back up. His sword is in his hand yet again. The light is cascading around him. The light represents the challenge. This is the challenge. You can either lay down and die, or you can get up again. You can set that shield in front of you, put that sword back in your hand, and continue to face everything that life wants to throw at you. That is the test. It's not a comfortable test. It's a painful test. It's a heartbreaking test by design. Because on the other side of that test, you have been crafted to be a divine instrument. And it takes fire and brimstone, pain, sweat, and blood to forge that instrument. So every one of those arrows in my back diminished my light only for a time. But the light that it will eventually become will overcome all of those bolts in my back. And it will be brighter than it was when we started off this journey. And I want you to keep that in mind. I want you to keep that image here in your mind. When you're about to throw in the towel, be like, I can't do anymore. You're not done yet. So get up on your feet, grit your teeth, and keep moving forward. Because that, my friends, is the Templar way. Thank you for sitting through my little TED Talk. If you have any comments, please leave them below. Otherwise, we'll see you when I see you soon, hopefully. Till then, cheers.